Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to dive into an emotional and dramatic story. The shocking rumor. Uri is forced to marry Linh to save the company, and Tutu must face the pain of betrayal. From whispers in the village to tense confrontations inside the company, every moment will test the strength of love and loyalty. Will Uri bend under the weight of pressure, or will he fight for the bond he shares with Tutu? Stay tuned, because this episode is filled with heartbreak, choices, and unforgettable scenes. And if you enjoy this journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. The morning air hums softly through the banana grove, sunlight weaving a golden net between the leaves. Ly Tu Tieu walks slowly, her basket tucked at her side. She bends, her fingers brushing the heavy stalks where ripe bananas dangle in clusters. Their golden skins glisten, and for a fleeting second, her lips curl into a gentle smile. But behind that smile lies a hollow ache, one that refuses to fade. She whispers to herself about the sweetness of the fruit, the richness of their flavor. How Uri once joked that bananas carried more hope than any jewel. Memories swell, with Uri baking fragrant cakes from their harvest. Uri laughing at the market while selling fruit with her by his side. Every banana she gathers is not just food, but a fragment of the future she longs for. One where she and Uri share a life untouched by whispers or betrayal. But today, her mind is restless. As she reaches for another bunch, the murmur of neighbors' voices drifts through the grove. A rumor carried on the wind, soft yet cutting. Uri is to marry Linh for the company's survival. The basket slips from her hands. Bananas scatter across the dirt. She freezes, chest tight, ears ringing with disbelief. Her eyes sting, tears blurring the sunlight into fractured shards. She wants to deny it, to laugh it off as idle gossip. But the words grip her heart like thorns. If Uri truly weds Linh, then what of their promises whispered under moonlit skies? Her breath trembles. She stoops, gathering the fallen fruit, though her hands shake so fiercely the stems snap. The garden, once her sanctuary, now feels suffocating. She clutches the basket, tears streaking her cheeks, and whispers into the silence, "Uri, tell me it isn't true." From the banana grove, the scene shifts to a polished company boardroom, bathed in sterile light. Uri stands stiffly beside his mother, his gaze lowered. At the head of the table, Linh receives an announcement that changes everything. Uri's mother officially names her deputy director. Applause ripples through the room. Linh bows gracefully, eyes gleaming with triumph. Uri, however, cannot mask his disappointment. His shoulders slump, and though his lips force a polite smile, his eyes betray sorrow. From a distance, Tutu lingers by the glass corridor, watching. She presses a hand against the cool pane, heart twisting as she sees Linh bask in praise while Uri fades into the background. The image sears itself into her mind. Linh rising, Uri diminished. The rumor gains weight. The board members exchange knowing glances, whispers threading together a story of strategy and sacrifice. "It makes sense," one mutters. A marriage to Linh would solidify control. The company needs this. Each hushed word is another dagger to Tutu's heart. Uri's mother leans forward, her sharp gaze pinning him in place. "Why hasn't the contract with Uncle Tuan's company been signed yet?" she demands. Uri swallows hard, his voice low but steady. The partner was unavailable. The timing didn't align. I have another proposal, one from a trusted friend's firm. It could work. But his mother's face hardens, suspicion etched in every line. Another proposal? From where? Do you even understand the weight of this company's future? You hesitate, you stall, and now Lin carries the burden instead. Uri bows his head. Silence fills the room. The unspoken judgment is clear. His hesitation is weakness. His leadership unworthy. Lin, meanwhile, assures his mother with confident words, her voice ringing with ambition. Outside the glass wall, Tu Tieu watches it unfold, her chest burning. She cannot hear every word, yet the tension is unmistakable. Uri, shrinking under pressure. Lin, stepping forward as the shining hope, his mother unwavering in her preference. The garden and the boardroom collide in her mind, one filled with soil and seeds of love, the other with power and calculated moves. And in between, she is powerless, a spectator to the dismantling of everything she believed in. The rumor that began as a whisper now feels inevitable. 3 events align like fate itself: the gossip in the grove, Lin's official promotion, and Uri's mother questioning his ability to lead. Together, they form an iron chain of logic. Uri marrying Lin is no longer mere speculation. It is becoming reality. As the day bleeds into dusk, Tu Tieu retreats to her small vegetable plot, clutching a basket of kohlrabi seedlings. Her hands move automatically, peeling away thin layers of plastic, loosening the soil. Yet her heart is heavy, each motion weighed down by sorrow. She forces herself to speak, her voice faint but steady, reaching out to the invisible presence of her viewers. Do you have advice for growing stronger crops? How do you keep them alive through storms? Her words are plain, directed at the earth, but beneath them hides another plea: how to keep love alive when betrayal looms. The garden listens in silence. The kohlrabi rests in its new soil, fragile yet stubborn, much like her hope. She pats the earth gently, eyes shining with unshed tears. The plants will grow, she tells herself. They must. But when she lifts her gaze, the horizon stretches endlessly, and her loneliness echoes louder than the cicadas in the fields. The grove thrives. The company stirs with decisions, but in her heart, only questions remain. Will Uri bend to his mother's will? Will he stand against the tide of rumors? And can she, Ly Tu Tieu, endure the weight of betrayal, even if it comes from the man she loves most? Her fingers tighten around the hoe, grounding her in the soil. She breathes deep, whispering again, "Uri, tell me it isn't true." The camera lingers on her face, a fragile blend of determination and despair, before fading into the dim glow of twilight. Night drapes itself across the valley, the garden cloaked in silver light. A faint moon hangs above as Tu Tieu kneels in the soil, her hands damp from digging trenches. She adjusts narrow pipes, setting up a simple sprinkler system she built from scraps. When the first droplets spurt out, they glisten in the moonlight, scattering like tiny jewels. But her gaze is distant, unfocused. Each drop seems to echo her heartbeat, steady yet anxious. She wonders if Uri's mother already resents her, if Lin now stands proudly where she should have been. The thought gnaws at her chest. The camera cuts to the company headquarters. Inside, Lin sits tall before Uri's mother, her posture perfect, her voice assured. "I won't let you down," Lin declares, her confidence swelling as if the entire company is already hers to command. Uri sits across the table, head slightly bowed. He listens in silence as his mother praises Lin's composure, her decisiveness. Then comes the sting. You see, Uri, this is what leadership looks like. Swift, clear, not hesitant. His fists clench under the table. He wants to protest, to defend his choices, but the weight of his mother's disappointment presses down harder than any argument. He swallows the words, eyes clouded with unspoken frustration. Meanwhile, in the quiet of the garden, Tutu straightens up, watching the sprinklers spread water across rows of seedlings. The droplets cling to her lashes, blurring her vision until they feel like tears. She whispers, almost to herself, "Even the soil receives more care than my heart." The screen splits in contrast. Lynn, radiant in her newfound role, basking under Uri's mother's approval. Uri, stiff and diminished, carrying the burden of expectation. And Tutu, alone in the moonlit field, clinging to fragile hope that the bond she nurtured with Uri won't be torn apart. Days slip by, each one feeding the rumor. Employees in the company whisper in hallways, "It's only logical Uri will marry Lynn. That way, the company's future is secured." The words crawl through corridors, through village markets, into the very ears of Tutu's neighbors. What began as gossip is now spoken as certainty. Tutu, hearing the chatter at the market, lowers her head. Her hands tremble as she pays for fertilizer, her mind racing with images of Uri standing beside Lynn at an altar. She imagines herself left behind, her love dismissed as nothing more than a youthful dream. Back at the company, Uri faces his mother once more. The conversation is sharp, merciless. "Have you signed the contract yet?" she demands. "I'm working on alternatives," he replies firmly, but she cuts him off. Alternatives or excuses? If you cannot lead, then let Lynn take the reins fully. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't falter. Uri's jaw tightens. He bows his head, a storm raging behind his eyes. His mother mistakes his silence for submission. Lynn, watching quietly, hides a smile of victory. The rumor now has three undeniable pillars: Lynn's promotion, Uri's faltering with the contract, and his mother's open disdain for his choices. To outsiders, it no longer matters if it is true. It feels true. And that is enough for tongues to keep wagging. The story shifts back to Tutu. She kneels among her vegetable beds, pulling weeds with methodical precision. Her face is calm, but her eyes betray the storm inside. She speaks again to her viewers, her voice faint but genuine. "Do you prune your vegetables often? I wonder if that helps them grow stronger. I'm still learning." Her words float gently, simple and practical, yet her gaze never lifts fully from the soil. Beneath her gardening talk lies a quiet plea for distraction, for comfort from strangers who cannot see her tears. The camera lingers on her hands as they press seeds into the earth, one after another. Each seed is a small act of defiance, a symbol of faith that tomorrow might still hold beauty, even as today crumbles. She pauses, leaning on the handle of her hoe. Her eyes drift to the horizon, where the faint lights of the town flicker. Perhaps Uri is there now, fighting battles she cannot see, bending under pressures she cannot ease. Her lips part, whispering his name, half prayer, half cry. Uri, in his office, stares at a stack of papers, untouched. The hum of the city beyond the windows feels far away. He presses his palms against his temples, torn between duty and love. His mind drifts to Tutu's laughter, the warmth of her hands, the way she looked at him as if he alone could shape her world. Then the echo of his mother's voice crashes back, demanding obedience, demanding sacrifice. The split screen returns. Uri in his office, eyes heavy with conflict. Tutu in her garden, face pale beneath the moonlight, whispering questions into the soil. Both suffer in silence, both tethered to love, yet pulled apart by the chains of family and expectation. Finally, the camera softens. Dawn breaks once again over the fields. Tu Tieu bends over her patch of green onions, sprinkling water with a small ladle. She forces a smile, speaking warmly to her audience. These little ones are growing slowly, but I'll be patient. I believe they'll flourish one day. What do you think? Do you have tips for me? Her tone is light, inviting, as though the rumor has no hold on her. Yet her eyes betray the truth. Behind every word is sorrow. Behind every smile is longing. The final shot lingers on her face as she looks across the rows of vegetables. The plants sway gently in the morning breeze, vibrant and alive. Yet her eyes are distant, reflecting only the image of Uri, the man she loves, the man she fears she may lose. The video closes in stillness. Tutu tending her crops, her heart heavy with unspoken pain. Her viewers see the gardener, but those who listen closely will hear the quiet echo beneath her words. A question left unanswered: can love endure when betrayal hovers so near? Fade to black.
Trong tập này, cuộc sống yên bình trong vườn của Tử Tiêu bị phá vỡ bởi một tin đồn gây sốc. Uri có thể bị ép cưới Linh để đảm bảo công ty của gia đình anh. Tin tức khiến cô chết lặng trong đau buồn. Giỏ của cô rơi xuống đất và nước mắt chảy dài trên khuôn mặt. Trong khi đó, tại công ty mẹ của Uri chính thức bổ nhiệm Linh làm phó giám đốc, làm dấy lên nhiều đồn đoán hơn nữa. Uri cố gắng tự bào chữa, nhưng do sự do dự của anh về một hợp đồng quan trọng đã vấp phải sự chỉ trích gay gắt, khiến anh bị lu mờ và Linh ăn mừng. Những đồn đoán những lời đồn lan truyền nhanh chóng, biến sự nghi ngờ gần như chắc chắn. Một mình trong trang trại nhỏ của mình, Tử Tiêu tiếp tục trồng rau. Những lời nói của cô chạm đến người xem khi cô che giấu nỗi buồn, sự tương phản giữa khu vườn tươi tốt. Trái tim cô đơn của cô phản ánh câu hỏi đau đớn: liệu tình yêu của cô dành cho Uri có thể tồn tại trước sự phản bội và hy sinh?